So my opinion is that she was doing drugs at the time. So for her to say that she didn't know what happened, who knows? Maybe she does know, maybe she didn't. She wouldn't tell me what happened. She just said she didn't remember. So that was the last time I physically saw her. The last time I talked to her was April 26th. She called my job that morning, and she was supposed to go to motor vehicle to take a test. She had her eye exam done. She had to go there to take her test to get her license back. And she said that a picture fell off the wall and that she had two black eyes and that she couldn't see. So there was no way that she could get to motor vehicle to do the test. So I did fax over paperwork saying that she wasn't going to make it. And that was the last time I spoke to her, was April 26th of 2010.
And she didn't give you any inkling that it could have been something else other than a picture falling and hitting her in the face?
No, and I did ask her, I said, is that what really happened? And she was like, yeah, it fell off the wall behind me, and where her bed was in the apartment, there was a big picture that was behind the bed. So, who am I to say one way or the other if it happened, because there was a picture there. So if it was an excuse, it was a good excuse because I was at her apartment and saw what was there. But she never let on that it was anything like a fight or something bad that happened.
Okay. So that was on April 26th. Then the last date that we have noted that Jenny was seen was on April 28th. Can you tell me about that?
On April 28th, I just got home from work and came in the house, and my ex-boyfriend, Neil, who lived with me at the time, just got home also. And I did have cameras on the house, and I would record during the day, and then I would rewind it at night and then record over it as long as nothing happened during the day. So all of a sudden, I heard, I don't remember if I heard beeping or somebody knocked at the door, but I looked at the cameras, and it was the Hummer, which was Bruce's Hummer that my sister was driving. It was in the driveway. And Neil went outside and spoke to her. There were two males that were in the car with her. One was driving, one was in the back seat. Neil recollects her, well, he felt, I guess you could say, that she seemed a little off, and she was looking for my mother. So I'm going to say if she was here 10 minutes, it was a lot, and then she wound up leaving. Bad on my part that I recorded over it every day, because that could have been something that I could have given to the detectives to see who were the people in the car with her at the time. But, I went over it and recorded over it because it was in a VHS tape, so that didn't help at all. But, I couldn't see anybody in the car either. I couldn't even see her in the car because the way the sun was on the windshield and everything. So I don't even know if the police could have done anything about that.
But Neil did talk to her out in the driveway. Is that correct?
Yes, Neil went out and asked her what she was doing, how is she, things like that, and she said that she wanted to talk to my mother. Neil said that she seemed a little, I guess agitated might be the word, but it could also be because she probably was in a bad state also. She might have been doing drugs or whatever, or was there something really the matter? Was she in danger? Was there something going on? I guess we'll never know. She wound up leaving, and that was it. That was the last time I saw her on camera. Neil saw her in person. That was the last time anyone in my family saw, because my mother didn't see her, my brother didn't see her. That was the last time anyone in my family saw her alive.
Fortunately, I was also able to connect with Christine's ex-boyfriend Neil, who was able to recount for me the last moments that he saw Jenny alive that afternoon of April 28th in front of Christine's home in Central Islip, and this is what he had to say.
I pulled up in the driveway, and the next thing I know, that she pulls up in the yellow Hummer, and she gets out of the car and comes over and starts talking to me, and she had two black eyes. I remember it was in early afternoon, I think. But she had black eyes, like she had been, like somebody punched her in the face, And and so, but she seemed happy. She was in a good mood, but she wanted to go in the house to see her mother. And I told her I can't let her do that, because Wick is sleeping and she doesn't need the aggravation. Oh, I said, Jenny, listen, I'm really sorry. I can't let you do that. And so I just asked her. I said, what's going on? Well, show your face. And she told me that something, I don't remember what it was, something had fallen off the wall and hit her on the bridge of the nose. And I kind of didn't believe it because I saw two kind of like shade-looking characters sitting in the Hummer. And So my spider sense was tingling right there, you know. I said, something's up to myself. I didn't know what, didn't know how to go about it. And she said, oh, hey, let me introduce you to my friends. And she introduced me to Champ, who was driving, Ernest Mateen, and some guy in the backseat called Nacho. So I had no idea who these people were. I had no idea why this guy was called Champ, why this guy was called Nacho. I had no idea. They were just with her, you know. But now I'm getting a bad feeling. And so I asked her, I said, Jenny, do you need help? You know, just like really on the down low to her. And she kind of like blew it off, but I had a bad feeling, you know. And she really wanted to go inside and see her mom, and I just couldn't let her. I couldn't let her do it. But, you know, I was under orders. You know, Jenny was not allowed in the house. And I just let her go. And that was the last I saw her.
So who was in the car with Jenny? And when did the family, in fact, find out that that would be the last time they would ever see her again? When did you find out that that would be the last time that anybody was going to see her alive?
May 3rd, I was at work, and her landlord came into my job. He was very concerned because he said he hadn't seen Jenny in a while. He hadn't seen her, well, he told me a few weeks, but I don't know when was the last time he also saw her. So he just said that he was concerned. He hadn't seen her. She hadn't been around, and he doesn't think she was back to the apartment at all. When he was there, he asked me, does she do things like this, like disappear for a while? And I said, yes, she would. You know, there was times when she would be doing drugs that she would disappear for a few days. We wouldn't hear from her for a few days. And, you know, at first when we were younger, of course, it was concerning, but then it kind of became status quo. It was, you know, she was doing bad things, so we weren't going to hear from her for a few days, maybe even a week or two. So it wasn't out of the norm. So even though I was concerned about it, it was also the flip side of, yes, this could be the norm.
So what did you do at that point? Did you call her? Did you go there? What did you do?
I tried calling her that day or within the next few days. So on that Friday, which was May 7th, I called asking if he had run into Jenny. Had Jenny been home? Has he seen her? Has he heard from her? Because at that point, too, I also have not heard from her. He said no, he hadn't heard from her, and as far as he knew, she hadn't been back to the apartment. At this point, I don't know how it came to be or told me, but he told me that she had a friend named Ernest Mateen that she was hanging out with, and Tom actually gave me Ernest Mateen's number, and I did call him, and he said he hadn't seen her at all. He hadn't seen her in weeks. She hadn't been around. So everything kind of ended right there with him, and that was on the 7th of May. The next day, which was Saturday, May 8th, the gentleman that she was living with up in Cold Spring Harbor, who was paying her rent, he had issues with Ernest Mateen. He was writing checks to him, found out that he was being lied to about what the checks were for, so he actually went up to the precinct up in Cold Spring Harbor. While he was there, I don't remember if he called me or I called him, but somehow I got in touch with the detective that was on the case with. I told him the situation, who I spoke to, that I did speak to the landlord. She hadn't been back there, and he advised me to go down to her apartment and call the police and make a missing persons report. So that's what I did on May 8th. I went down there, waited a while. A detective showed up. He filled out paperwork. He looked around the apartment. He did see that there was blood there was blood splatter on the wall. There was, where the full-size bed was, it was like kind of shifted to the side, and you could see that a piece of the carpet was missing, and you could smell bleach. And the detective said, don't touch anything in here. Everything's off limit until someone speaks to you. So we leave. I come home, I have to tell my mother this the day before Mother's Day, that her daughter's missing. So, as you can imagine, that was heartbreaking enough driving home thinking I had to tell my mother this, saying I couldn't even get the words out, I just started crying. While I'm sitting there talking to my mother and she's upset, I'm upset, I get a phone call from a detective out of Suffolk County. We're talking back and forth about, he said, the police officer was there. Can you give me descriptions of things? Can you this, that? Just basic questions, I guess, to kind of fill in the blank. And at one point I said to him, oh, well, there was blood splatter. And he said, blood splatter? I said, yeah, there was blood there. He goes, let me call you back. I'd say probably 10 to 15 minutes later, he calls me back and he says, oh, we're sending crime scene down there.
There was blood stains spattered on the ceiling. There was blood stains on the carpet. And it looked like there was some kind of altercation there. I said to myself, this is bullshit. To me, this was like somebody got a good uppercut and spit their teeth on the ceiling. I didn't say that out loud, though. And so we called the cop. When the cop came and took a report about it, we didn't know what Jenny was, and we didn't like the way this was, and he let us go. But then we get a call later on from a detective that they saw the police report, and they went back to the house. They wanted us to come back because now they're considering it a crime scene. And when we get there, all the bags with Jenny's stuff were gone.
They sent a detective to my house that night, probably about 10 o'clock at night at this point, too. It was very late. He came in plain clothes and everything. And he wound up taking a statement. He wound up taking our brushes at that point, DNA, things like that. So that day, which was Mother's Day, they wound up dredging the canal behind the house because this house where she lived was on a canal. So they wound up dredging it on Mother's Day, and they came up with nothing. At this point, we have never found her pocketbook. We've never found her license, cell phone. Nothing like of personal effects like that have we found. There was nothing in the apartment that was left, and they've never found anything on the street or, dredging the canal.
So many questions. Why are they dredging the canal? At this juncture, Jenny was still considered a missing person. Or is it homicide now? They must have had reason to believe that she was no longer alive, but why? Was it the amount of blood in the apartment? Did the police receive any statements from anyone that led them to believe she was dead? Are there any suspects? They obviously have information that they're not disclosing. And the name Ernest Mateen keeps coming up. Who is Ernest Mateen? Well, my research says that Ernest Mateen was a former pro boxer who at the time happened to be married to R&B singer Kia Jeffries. But what would he have anything to do with Jenny? Let's see if we can figure that out on the next episode of Discarded, The Search for Jenny. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Jennifer Poole or have a loved one who is missing and would like to contact us, please do so at 347-603-8676 or direct message us through our social media pages, Facebook and Instagram, Discarded Podcast. Also, a special thank you to YouTube show Missing on Long Island, who is partnering with the Discarded Podcast, who also covered the disappearance of Jennifer Poole. Please subscribe and follow Missing on Long Island on YouTube and check out their first episode, The Sophia McKenna Story. I'd like to credit music by Randy Negron, Solo Star. Music available on Reverb Nation, and please subscribe to Solo Star on YouTube. Thank you again for joining me for this episode of Discarded with your host, Lin-Marie, and stay tuned for the upcoming release of our next episode. See you then.